Hey peeps, welcome back to another video. Today I want to talk about how to pass an Ellie in P1. I know this video came super late and I'm very sorry for that. Unfortunately my guild disbanded and I was very busy with that, so now we're back on track, so let's get into it. Let's go to Bastion of Twilight first and talk about Halfus. That fight got removed from the ASP, meaning the all-star points. That being said, it's still on your profile and you can still get 99s and 100s on it, it just won't count towards your all-star points. If you want to basically pass on this fight, you gotta be one of the only few people that focus Halfus down while everyone else is killing the dragons. This is obviously not that plausible for that many people. So you gotta get lucky, have your raid actually focusing your dragons, or cleaving them down rather, and no one just tunneling Halfus. So you get the dragons done quickly and then you kill Halfus afterwards, and hopefully with a fast kill time you can get a 99. What I like to do on this fight specifically is if you're the person just chain lightning Halfus and, you know, shooting a lava burst and earthshock and stuff into him, you're obviously not using lightning bolt that much and you're most likely just chain lightning spamming, which you're also going to be doing if you want to kill the dragons. So flame tongue weapon can actually come quite in handy, but obviously if no one is focusing Halfus in the meantime, he's going to be quite high on HP, and in the end you're still going to be single targeting him quite a lot. So depending on how this is going, you can either go flame tongue weapon for more cleaving, or you can just go the lightning bolt glyph instead of unleash lightning for the end where you focus Halfus for single target, and it's going to be a gain. On that fight, you don't really need to move that much. There's defenses, there's raid cooldowns, the fire doesn't really do that much damage. You have Spirit Walker's Grace, you have your Flame Shock and Earth Shock you can use to move, and if push comes to shove, you can also still use Unleashed Lightning to move. Now for Thal'kion and Viona. This fight is actually quite interesting because people found out if the off tank is engaging the fight with taunting the one that would be flying in the air, which is going to be Thal'kion, it flies closer to the ground, which makes everyone able to cleave with abilities they couldn't before. Thunderclap, Combustion, and stuff like that will now be able to cleave on both targets instead of just one because the dragon is further down to the ground. That's also going to help you with your Fire Ellie and Fire Nova. I'm not going to mention when to Fire Ellie on every single boss here in this video because I already have its own video for that. So if you have questions about that, just watch the video and it should answer your questions. Now you're in front of the boss, what do you do next? First up, very important, you want to flame shock both of the bosses because you want to get as many lava burst resets as possible. You also want to use chain lightning on cooldown because you can hit two bosses basically 90% of the fight. This is going to be a damage increase for you. This is going to tank a lot of your mana, so if you have not that great of gear, you might have to use Thunderstorm either on cooldown or quite frequently. There's also a major glyph called Glyph of Thunder, which reduces the cooldown of Thunderstorm by 10 seconds. Since it's a major glyph, it's really easy to pick up and also it's going to help you with your mana issues. Now obviously there's the scenario where the boss goes into frontal mode. It does the 3 frontals and you obviously want to dodge those, and you cannot use chain lightning on cooldown to hit 2 targets anymore. That being said, you can still use flame shock on both targets. When the boss is flying past you doing the frontal, you can just tap target to it and put a flame shock on it, so you can keep 2 flame shocks up and get more lava burst cooldown resets of that. And an important thing I forgot to say is, of course you want to use Earth Shock with your 9 lightning shield stacks whenever possible, but you do not at any point want the flame shocks to fall off the 2 targets because the lava burst resets are just worth way more and happen way more frequently that way. Now on the Ascendant Council, you want to do the exact same thing as Thal'kion and Viona. You want to use no chain lightning glyph, you want to use flame shock on both targets, spam chain lightning, and lava burst the target with more HP because you want to keep them at equal HP, otherwise the boss faces too quickly. Your Fire Elemental and Earth Elemental will both AFK whenever the first people go up on the balcony. I like to use it P1 just due to the fact that they get Icy Reprisal, which is the melee buff, and they also get the fiery buff technically if they stand on that specific boss. That means their melee attacks will just deal more damage. They actually both get the Icy Reprisal buff, which is really helpful. If the fight is super fast and you get to P3 with your Fire Ellie technically still up, it will then go to the big boss and actually attack it, but you will obviously lose a lot of damage from not having Searing Totem up because Fire Ellie will AFK. Yes, they did technically fix Fire Ellie, but unfortunately they didn't fix it the way they said they did. They fixed it so if you drop Fire Ellie pre-combat, it doesn't, well, it's still AFKs if you put it pre-combat, but it then will go onto your first flame shock target. They made it sound like it will swap between your flame shock targets every so often, but that unfortunately isn't happening. They are aware of it and are gonna fix it. The question is obviously when. Season of Discovery just came out with a new face, and as we know, Season of Discovery does take priority for them, which is unfortunate, but I mean, also understandable. There is way more going on than in Cataclysm. Now for Cho'gall. Basically, this boss is also very patty. If you want to use the Chain Lightning glyph so you can pat on bloods, if your raid takes adherence to the boss to cleave down, you will also have 3 to 4 targets constantly, 4 targets with Shadow and Fire ally up, so the glyph gains even more value. If you cannot really pat on bloods, or you don't tank the adherence in melee for everyone to AoE them down, you can just not run Chain Lightning. You gain more value on 2 targets that way, and since you're going to tank the adherence together, which is 2 targets, and you're also having the boss plus the Fire or Shadow ally also being 2 targets, you gain a lot of value from that. Depending on the fight length, you can also use the Fire ally glyph, which can be really good, but you gotta decide that for yourself depending on how long the fight is for you. The only thing that's excluded on the fight is the spiked tentacle. So the little eyes technically count towards your pass. So depending on if you have the boss at the throne or have them stacked in a corner somewhere, cleaving the eyes can also be a DPS gain. That being said, most of the time they are very spread and you cannot hit more than 3. That means the boss and 2 eyes, so the Chain Lightning glyph can come in handy here, but most of the time it does not. That being said, I still like going to Chain Lightning glyph just due to the fact you still want to pat on the bloods as much as possible. Up until you go to the last phase, the bloods will respawn anyway and there are going to be more and more of them. There's going to be so many targets that in the end you can at least get a couple Chain Lightnings off, and if you have Elemental Mastery, you can go Chain Lightning into EM, Instant Chain Lightning. You can get off 2 really quickly. If you absolutely have no chance of patting, you can get off maybe like 1 Chain Lightning per blood spawn. It's really not worth it, but like I said, most of the time you can definitely get off more. Of course, if you're stacking mages and they have combustion and they use combustion on them, they're instantly dead anyway, but it really depends on your raid specifically. Now for Sinestra, it's the same as Cho'gall and Halfus. If you want to pass, you need to be padding. For Sinestra, it's specifically the whelps that you want to pad on. If everyone kills them and you can't really pad, you lose a lot of damage personally. That being said, you still want to use Chain Lightning glyph anyway, even if you can't pad much. Because first of all, you want to AoE them down and then they respawn anyway, so you can get a lot of Chain Lightnings into it. Even if it's only 2 or 3 per whelps, it's still gonna be a gain because you don't really pad as much with Chain Lightning outside of that. It's only the dragon that gets taken to melee most of the time, at least for me, but it's already very low. And then there's the 2 adds that the rogues have to CC chain, and the melees are usually on top of that as well, so the HP of those are pretty low, but those are the scenarios where you hit Chain Lightning on 2 targets and obviously technically lose out of 10% of the initial damage, but like I said, still worth it even if you only get a couple of Chain Lightnings on the whelps. 2 other things you can actually do on the fight to increase your damage. First up, I like multi-darting a little bit. I have noticed that most people do Lust on Pull, which gives you a lot of haste. So if you actually put 1 or 2 flame shocks on the whelps, that's going to give you more lava burst reset. That being said, you obviously have to watch out. If everyone's doing it, they're going to die early and you're going to grief the raid. Now for the most important thing, you want to keep your Fire ally up until the egg becomes available. If you actually kill the egg and you get some procs, you can use your Fire ally. I like using it on the egg with some procs due to the fact that it's going to kill the egg a little bit faster, and then also afterwards it's going to go on Sinestra. It's going to go through the lava to hit the boss, so it's not going to be anywhere in melee. It's not going to die to the katas, and it also doesn't die to the lava. That's it for the Bastion of Twilight. I'm going to do another video for the Blackwing Descent because this video is already way too long. I hope this helped you out a little bit, and good luck passing.